Austin Van Campen with Spartans Alliance here, and welcome to Deal Room Discussions. This is the venue where our members put their actual deals on the table and the team strategizes them to success. Listen to this recent deal that went very well and see how we did it.
On the dental surgery equipment, seller of that company, and just give an update there because we'd mentioned that one last week and we've had follow-up, and I think that might be an exciting one just to talk through in terms of what we did, how we did it, and the result that we got.
Okay. Well, I think last time we were almost at a deal where he was going to give obviously a fee for us selling the company and a percentage. I think it was 8% of the company to take it through to the exit. Bart said that I think we should hold out for one more email, which we did. I kind of went along with it, even though I kind of wanted to just kind of accept what he put forward. Anyway, we did. We held out one more email, and he came back. Sorry, Bart, you actually said, would you go a little bit more? And then he did. He actually came back and said, yeah, he accepted that, and with an extra percentage on top of that as well. So we've ended up with a deal with quite a good fee up front and a large percentage of the business, 9% on the exit. So it was a really good outcome.
Right on. And some of the things that we saw with that, just to dive into a bit of where the seller psychology was, he was very bought into the idea that we could solve his problem. We had completely convinced him in the on-site meeting when we had lunch. This was one of the lunches where Damien couldn't eat the food that I was laughing about with him last week. But the seller was completely convinced we were the right group for the job. But he was also trying to throw, whether it was real or not, we don't know, but throw negotiation tactics at us to be able to say, well, I'm talking to a couple other groups. You guys are priced the highest. You guys have more fees. You're charging more. It was that whole scenario. But at the same token, you could really tell that the seller was committed to working with us because they saw the value. And we leveraged that. If they weren't really convinced of the value, then we probably would have looked at it from a negotiation perspective and said, all right, let's cut bait and run. Let's go ahead and take what we can get and move forward. And we would have been very happy with that. Yeah. But the fact of the matter is, with what he had come back with, and that happened literally while we were on this meeting last week, he'd come back with a counteroffer, but we knew that emotionally he was very wrapped up in it. Yeah. So this was one of those situations where the emotional response that, most of us as human beings would have in the middle of that situation is to say, oh my gosh, let's go ahead and take the deal because we've gone back and forth on this and this is good and this is going to be acceptable to us. But if you're in that scenario where you feel like the person is that committed and you can get a little bit more, it's a great moment to push for it. Mm-hmm. And it feels scary and it definitely feels risky because ultimately the person could go away. I mean, that is a real risk you have to accept when that's on the line. But this is where it comes down to the relationship, the rapport, and also a true understanding of their pain, a true understanding of the 2 to 3 big pain points and why they're painful, and really being able to adequately capture how we're going to solve that pain. And that's what we did. And so it was done over an email response. It wasn't even that tough. I mean, we didn't have to even get on the phone. And in the email, we essentially wrote back, and Damien and I reinforced the strength of what we bring to the table and really saw the world through this person's eyes and showed him, this is how we're going to be able to solve this, to be able to get you the right types of buyers that you want. And basically reiterated back to him the thing that he had shared with us in the on-site meeting. And then said, but ultimately there is a challenge over what you're asking for, and we think that we can do this, but we want more money than what you had countered with, and we want the higher percentage that he had previously offered. And he ultimately went with it. So it was, I think, a really good case study around negotiation in the sense that if you feel that there's more that you can pull from it and there's money that you might leave on the table otherwise, there's no harm in pushing. Because ultimately, I think even if the guy had come back and said, hell no, I'm not going to do it, that's too much, you guys are, being greedy, or whatever the response would have been, I think it probably would have been because we failed to really represent the value we bring. But he was clearly bought into that. And if he'd have come back and just thrown up over it emotionally, because a lot of people do, they just get to a point where they say, I'm just not going to pay anymore, even if it makes sense, then we probably still had the opportunity to fall back and say, yeah, okay, fine, we'll take what you threw out before. And we could, essentially say, oh, you make a good point, or whatever we feel is the right thing to share with them as to why we would concede, but then go back and concede. So we had a bit of a fallback, but at the end, I mean, Damien and I were just discussing it yesterday, really glad we pushed, because now we've got more money and we've got more equity upon the sale of the company.
Yeah, it's essentially all the work he's put in. We've got 9% of his company to sell. Yeah, fantastic result.
Which really gets into another opportunity that we have as part of what we bring to the table, all of us collectively. This is just a scenario where we're just selling the company. We're not buying it. We're not turning it around. We're not doing anything super special. We're just selling it. And for that, to Damien's point, we're taking this guy's work, which was what, over 20 years? How long has the company been around?
30 years, I think. Yeah, long time.
So many decades of this guy's life that he's built this thing, and all the success he's leveraged across the UK and the Emirates locations. We're just essentially coming in with one face-to-face meeting to take 9% of that company, and a big fee to go out and sell it that we collect regardless of whether or not we actually succeed in the sale. So that's another opportunity that all of us have access to as part of this group, is the ability to actually broker the sale of the company.
That's amazing, right? Well, keep coming back, because we have a lot more where that came from. Deal room discussions, where our members put their actual deals on the table and we strategize them to success.